So a little while ago, I made this video all about how I knew that I was non-binary and how I should have figured that out sooner. And I realized I don't really have that for asexuality here on this channel. So today I'm going to be talking about how I knew I was on the asexual spectrum. This video is for anyone who is questioning whether or not they're ace or just recently in their asexual journey. It's kind of a video that I wish I had when I was younger and figuring out that I was ace. So if this helps even just one person, I'll be really happy. But before we get into the video, I just want to remind you to like, comment, and subscribe. I'm trying to get to 30,000 subscribers by Pride Month. We're 5,000 away, so like, if y'all would just subscribe. It's like 83% of you that watch my videos aren't subscribed, so please, please, please do. And also be sure to hit the notifications. We all know that YouTube doesn't like actually showing people the videos of people that they've subscribed to, which is weird, so be sure to do that too. And let's get into the video. So I remember from a really young age having kind of like this roadmap of how I thought my life was going to be. For those of you who don't know, I grew up in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, or Mormon, and they have a very strict idea of what AFAB people are supposed to do with their lives, aka get married to a man, have tons of babies, be a stay-at-home mom, all of that kind of stuff, which there's nothing wrong with if that's what like you actually want to do with your life, but like, God, I do not want to do that with my life. But from a young age, I had this idea of what I thought my future was going to be, what the man that I was going to marry to look like, how many kids I would have, all of that kind of stuff. So this is my very first introduction to how to kind of think about sex and relationships and all that kind of stuff. And they definitely get you. I remember thinking about that stuff at like 3 or 4. That's kind of when they start talking to you about getting married in the temple and how you have to be a good Mormon so that you can go to the temple and be married for all eternity and then make all of these spirit children in the next life and all that fun stuff. So this is kind of like the background I had growing up and the way of thinking I had when it comes to sex and relationships. And for a very strict, high control, essentially evangelical sect of Christianity, Mormons are actually very hyper focused on sex, like really badly. And I remember hearing from a very young age about how tempting sex was and how you're supposed to overcome this temptation until you get married in the temple and then you can breed like rabbits. And it's actually kind of funny because my very first introduction to like being taught officially about this in the church, I was 12 years old. And for those of you who don't know Mormon culture, from the time that you were 3 or 4 to 12, they have you in primary and then they section off boys and girls at age 12 into different classes. But the very first class I had as a budding 12-year-old was the law of chastity. For those of you who don't know, that is how Mormons tell you not to have sex before marriage, and it's bad and it's a sin and you're taking away your value and all of that stuff. I was 12. You were teaching me this. And I hated it. Because first off, it was awkward. I'd already known the leaders for a bit because my sibling was older than me and I was around them. And the second reason it was awkward was because I was 12 and I wasn't having those feelings. And I was just like, why am I getting talked to about this when I'm not even tempted by it? And again, 12 is around the time when a lot of my friends were starting to talk more openly about that kind of stuff. Who they were having crushes on, who they thought was hot, who they thought was attractive. And I just remember feeling so left out of these conversations because I didn't understand it. And honestly, it wasn't the first time I didn't understand it. I distinctly remember when I was about 7 or 8 and my sibling and a friend of ours at the time both had crushes on boys. And I was sitting there and I was like, I don't want to like not have someone to talk about. Like, I want to be involved. I very much was like, me too. So I randomly looked around my church and picked a boy to have a crush on. So I had someone to talk about in this situation. Also, I know that's something that a lot of aromantics have experience with as well, picking someone to have a crush on. It's not just an asexual thing, but for me it very much was I wanted to be part of the group. I wasn't feeling what my sibling and friend were feeling, so I was just like, I'm just gonna do this real quick to fit in. So yeah, it wasn't ever something I really ever thought about. When I was 12, 13, 14 and hearing all of my friends talk about these attractions that they were having, I was just frankly confused. And I genuinely thought at some point like sexual attraction would just like pop up for me. Like I was like, oh yeah, during puberty it'll just like ba-boom, one day you're gonna feel it and it's gonna make you normal, quote unquote, and you'll be good and fit in with everyone else. Spoiler alert, that did not happen. But yeah, so I wasn't feeling it. All of these conversations were happening around me and I just didn't understand it. I have two different stories of how I first heard about asexuality. Apparently, the very first time I ever heard about asexuality was actually from my sibling. They remember having a conversation with me when I was about 13 or 14 because I was feeling really left out. I was feeling really broken. I was feeling really like, what's wrong with me? Why is this not happening? Why is everyone else talking about this and I'm not feeling it? Like, what's going on up here? And they at the time had started getting a bit more into Tumblr and getting more into queer spaces through that, and had come upon the term asexuality and apparently told me that they thought that I might be asexual. I do not remember this conversation. Probably because I was still trying to fit into like heteronormativity and being straight and viewing myself that way. So I probably blocked it, which I do a lot. I have disassociative issues. Yeah, apparently that's the first time I heard about asexuality. The time that I first remember hearing about it, I was 14. I was at a friend's house and she had this friend who I thought was super cool, so we started talking and I don't know how it got brought up, but she was like, yeah, I'm asexual. And I was like, well, what's that? I'd only heard about being gay and lesbian before that. That was like all I knew about queer stuff. So she started to explain it to me and I was like, oh shit. Like, that may be me. I think that might be me. And at the time I was very accepting of being ace because she was a hetero-romantic asexual and I was like, yeah, I'm hetero-romantic and ace and I can still be a good Mormon girl and marry a man and still do all that. But it wasn't until I was 16 or 17 that I actually had sexual feelings before on a friend of mine who happened to be a girl, and I realized that demisexuality was actually the better label for myself. For those of you who don't know what demisexuality is, it's a label under the asexual spectrum where you don't feel sexual attraction unless a close bond is formed. And before you come at me and go, everyone feels that way, you're just trying to be special, blah blah blah, you're not really asexual. Shush. Let me explain this to you. I live my life, going through my life as an asexual person until bam, poof, randomly I will feel sexual attraction. For me personally, it takes about 6 to 9 months for that to occur if it's going to happen, but I genuinely need to be very, very close with this person, like best bud kind of close, which makes everything so awkward. And I don't like having sexual attraction because it genuinely only happens, like it's only happened to me like 3.5 times in my life. So yeah, I literally go through my life. I've gone through my life up until this point 96% asexual, which like most people aren't doing that. Most people aren't going around the world like not having sexual attraction for that majority of their life. So don't come at me and tell me demisexuality is real. But if you ever see me in the wild and I'm talking about being ace, I only ever talk about being asexual. Like, I don't explicitly tell people I'm demisexual because then I have to get into explaining it, and most cishet people don't really care. So I just say I'm ace to save everyone the headache. And that's what's worked for me the best. So yeah, I've been on the asexual spectrum for the last 13 years of my life, going on 14. Oh my god, that means like half of my life I had known that I'm like actually asexual. It's crazy. It's gonna be next year. Okay, I'm gonna stop having like a crisis right now. But I genuinely am incredibly grateful for knowing this about myself, especially finding out when I was younger to kind of help me explore my queerness and realizing how I want to structure my relationships and how it doesn't necessarily have to revolve around sex all of the time. And I do have to say it was hard for me to accept that I was asexual, not because of my own like I'm fine with me being asexual, but the idea of other people and how they react to asexuality and having sex not be at the forefront of like a potential relationship, because I do know how important that is to a lot of people. And one of my biggest fears, especially when I was a teenager and in my early 20s, was that no one would love me because of my asexuality, that I wasn't enough, that I wasn't good enough. And I'm not gonna lie, one of the biggest things that I've struggled with is feeling like I would deserve to be cheated on in a relationship because of my asexuality. Because, oh yeah, of course, if someone needs sex that bad, they would not want to be with me, or they would cheat on me, because who would want to put up with that kind of thing? And it's definitely something that I've been working through therapy and that kind of stuff, because it is so ingrained, especially in Western society, is how prevalent sex is in relationships. And that feeling of guilt and that feeling of, oh yeah, I deserve this bad thing to happen on me because I'm not providing something that my partner needs or whatever, does make me feel really guilty. But just know that if you are ace and you do want to date or look for a partner or have a QPR, that kind of thing, you deserve someone who fully understands your aceness, what you're comfortable with, what you're not, how you feel attraction, all of that, and respects you for it and validates you. Because I know a lot of asexuals do feel that way and have that guilt about being ace for other people, not for themselves. Like, we're fine being ace, but like we feel that guilt because of other people. So if that's something you're dealing with, just know that you're not alone, and it's something that I very much deal with as well. I think that a lot of people just think because you've figured out your sexuality that it's all like sunshine and rainbows, and it doesn't mean that you don't struggle with aspects of yourself that you've internalized from how you were raised, especially if you grew up in Western culture or religious cultures, because sex is so pervasive and shoved down everyone's throat, but it's constantly there, and not having that attraction is just so outside of the norm of what people understand. Which is why I've always been so vocal about being asexual. Even before I started making videos in my YouTube channel and all of my social media, like I was an out ace person. And I talk about it all of the time when people want to talk about it. Obviously, if people don't want to talk about it, I'm not going to. But it's something that I'm very proud of, and I'm proud to be an out ace person, because so many people who are on the asexual spectrum don't really feel comfortable being out. So yeah, I'm really grateful to be on the asexual spectrum. I honestly wouldn't change it for the world. And for anyone who is questioning whether or not they're ace, I really hope this video helped. I want you to know that you're valid. You're not alone. You're not broken for not feeling sexual attraction. The ace community is one of the kindest, sweetest communities you will find. And I promise you, you will find people who love and support and validate your ace identity. Thank you so much for watching this video. Let me know in the comments down below how you figured out that you were asexual. Like I said before, I really do hope this video helped at least one person who's questioning whether or not they're ace. And this channel is here for everyone who's on the asexual spectrum and aromantic spectrum. So yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.